My girlfriend said, "You need to stop being so insecure. He is just my friend." I just nodded. I waited until our anniversary dinner at the expensive downtown restaurant. Then I showed her the hotel security footage of them together. Her replacement was sitting right across from me. When she saw her, Garrett, 35, male, had been with Evelyn, 33, for 7 years. We lived a polished, upwardly mobile life in Philadelphia. I was a corporate strategy consultant for a large firm, earning $140,000 a year. Evelyn was a public relations manager, making around $80,000. We rented a stylish condo in the Society Hill neighborhood, a place with exposed brick and skyline views. Our social life was a curated loop of dinners at places like Betrayal Cuisine and weekends with our closest friends, Kevin and Jessica. We were the picture of a successful couple. The opportunity that would change everything arrived on a crisp autumn afternoon. A headhunter from Miami contacted me about a position at a rapidly growing private equity firm. The role was Vice President of Strategy, a significant leap in title and responsibility. The offer was staggering: a base salary of $230,000, a performance bonus structure that could double it, a full relocation package, and a generous housing allowance. It was a career-defining move. I told Evelyn about it that evening, my voice filled with genuine excitement. I laid out the numbers, the potential, the vision of a life in the sun. She listened with a detached air, scrolling through her phone as I spoke. When I finished, she looked up, her expression unreadable. "Miami is so superficial, Garrett," she said. "And private equity. You'll work 100 hours a week. You'll have no life. It's a chance to build real wealth," I argued. "To set us up for the future." She shook her head. "It sounds like you're running away from something." Her dismissal was total. Around the same time, she started spending more and more time with a new coworker of hers, Dylan. Late nights at the office, weekend, work emergencies. When I voiced my discomfort, she turned it back on me. "You need to stop being so insecure," she said, her voice sharp. "He is just my friend." Update 1. I told the Miami firm I needed a few weeks to consider their offer. In reality, I was conducting my own due diligence, both on the firm and on Evelyn. Her dismissiveness toward my future, coupled with her sudden and intense friendship with Dylan, felt like two sides of the same coin. She was creating distance, and I needed to understand why. She continued her narrative with our friends. At dinner with Kevin and Jessica, she sighed. "Garrett has this crazy idea to move to Miami," she told them. "I think the stress of his job is getting to him. He's been so paranoid lately." Kevin looked at me with concern. "It's a big risk, man. What you have here is stable." Jessica added, "And you have to trust Evelyn. She wouldn't do anything to hurt you." They saw me as the unstable one, the source of unnecessary drama. I didn't correct them. Instead, I began to build my exit strategy. I opened a new private investment account and began transferring my personal assets into it. I started having quiet video calls with a Miami realtor, looking at waterfront condos in the Brickell financial district. My suspicions about Dylan, however, still gnawed at me. I hired a private investigator. It took him less than a week. He provided me with a date-stamped video file from the security camera in the lobby of a downtown hotel. It showed Evelyn and Dylan checking in together one evening when she was supposedly working late. The evidence was cold, clear, and absolute. Update 2. Our 8th anniversary was approaching. It was the perfect stage. I made a reservation for 3 at Betrayal Cuisine, our favorite special occasion restaurant. I told Evelyn I was inviting a business associate who was flying in from Miami. She seemed pleased at the idea of a fancy, expensive dinner. The third guest was Sophia, the realtor I had been working with. I had arranged for her to fly in to finalize the details of my new condo purchase. It was a business meeting, but her presence would serve another purpose. I arrived early with Sophia. We were seated at a quiet corner table. When Evelyn walked in, she looked radiant, smiling as she approached. She faltered for a moment when she saw Sophia, a beautiful and impeccably dressed woman. "Evelyn, this is Sophia," I said calmly, "my real estate agent from Miami." We made small talk for a few minutes. Then, during a lull in the conversation, I slid my tablet across the table to Evelyn. The screen was paused on the hotel security footage. Her smile froze. "I've accepted the job in Miami," I stated, my voice even. "I'm moving next month." Our life together is over. She stared at the screen, then at me, her face a mask of shock and fury. She looked at Sophia, who was sipping her water with quiet composure. Evelyn opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. She pushed her chair back, grabbed her purse, and walked out of the restaurant without a word. Update 3. The weeks following the dinner were a quiet storm. Evelyn alternated between sending floods of furious texts, accusing me of humiliating her, and leaving long, pleading voicemails. I didn't respond to any of them. I remained focused on the logistics of my new life. I arranged for the movers, sold my BMW 5 Series, and methodically packed my belongings. Kevin and Jessica tried to intervene, calling me to mediate. I politely told them that my decision was final and not open for discussion. On the day of the move, Evelyn was gone. She had taken her things from the condo a few days prior, while I was at work. There was no final confrontation. I flew to Miami and stepped out of the airport into the warm, humid air. It felt like a different world. My new office was on the top floor of a gleaming skyscraper in Brickell, with panoramic views of Biscayne Bay. My new colleagues were sharp, driven, and professional. The work was intense, but I felt a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. I was exactly where I needed to be. Update 4. 6 months later, I was a different person. I had settled into my new condo, a stunning 2-bedroom unit with a balcony overlooking the water. Using my company's car allowance, I leased a new Porsche Macan. I joined a yacht club, finding a new passion for sailing on the weekends. The sun and the sea were a powerful antidote to the past. My work at the firm was a resounding success. I identified a key acquisition target, and the deal I structured and closed brought a massive return to our investors. The partners were ecstatic. I received a $75,000 bonus, which I immediately put toward the principal on my new condo. One afternoon, I thought back to Evelyn's words, the ones she had used as a weapon. You need to stop being so insecure. I realized then that what she called insecurity was simply my intuition telling me that something was wrong. I had just failed to listen to it soon enough. That evening, I got a text from Jessica. "Hey Garrett, we heard you're doing really well. Just wanted to say hi." I kept my response polite but distant. "All is well here. I hope you and Kevin are doing fine." I had no interest in rebuilding those bridges. Update 5. My firm announced the successful acquisition in a major industry publication. The article mentioned my role in leading the deal and included my new title, Vice President of Strategy. I updated my professional profile online to reflect the public information. The news rippled back to Philadelphia. Evelyn sent a barrage of messages. "Vice President, you told me it was just a consulting gig." Another said, "You let me believe you were taking a step down." I ignored them. A few days later, Kevin called. His voice was laced with regret. "Garrett, man, I'm so sorry," he said. "Evelyn told us you were having a midlife crisis, that you were paranoid and throwing your career away. We saw the article, we had no idea. You heard her story." I replied calmly. "You didn't ask for mine." The call ended with him apologizing again. My family, who had been fed a similar narrative by Evelyn, also called to say they now understood and supported my decision. The truth was finally cutting through her web of lies. Update 6. She appeared at the front desk of my condo building in Miami a week later. Unannounced, the concierge called up, and out of a sense of detached curiosity, I went down to the lobby to meet her. She looked tired, her usual confidence replaced by a raw desperation. "Garrett, we need to talk," she said. "There's nothing to discuss," I replied. "I made a mistake," she said, her voice cracking. "A terrible, unforgivable mistake with Dylan. But I've ended that. I've been going to therapy. I've changed." She reached for my hand. "I want to come back. I can move here. We can have that life you talked about." I looked at her, and the image of her face as she saw the footage on the tablet screen was vivid in my mind. "You lied to me for months," I said, my voice steady. "And you only stopped when you were presented with undeniable proof. People make mistakes." She insisted. "This wasn't a mistake," I corrected her. "It was a series of choices." I stepped back toward the elevators. "I've made my choice too. Goodbye, Evelyn." Update 7. Her final, desperate move was an attempt at professional sabotage. She sent an anonymous email to my firm's managing partner, accusing me of sharing confidential information about my old company during my interview process. It was a baseless, vindictive lie, an attempt to poison my new career. My company's response was swift and professional. Their legal team conducted a brief internal review, found no evidence to support the claim, and dismissed it as a malicious attack from a disgruntled third party. The attempt was so transparently clumsy that it only served to solidify my standing within the firm. Word of her failed attempt eventually filtered back to our old social circle in Philadelphia, destroying the last vestiges of her credibility. She was now seen not as a victim, but as a bitter and dishonest person. Update 8. A year passed. My life in Miami was stable, prosperous, and peaceful. I was thriving in my role at the firm, and I was in a new relationship. Sophia, the realtor, had become a close friend, and our friendship had blossomed into a partnership built on mutual respect, honesty, and shared ambition. We had just returned from a 2-week trip to Italy. One evening, I received a final email from Evelyn. It was short. She wrote that she had been let go from her PR job after her affair with Dylan became an open secret at the office and affected her work. She had moved back to her hometown in Ohio. The email ended with, "I am sorry for everything. I know I destroyed the best thing in my life out of my own fear and selfishness." I read it, feeling not anger or pity, but a profound sense of distance. Her life was a product of her choices. I replied with a short, final message. "I wish you peace." I archived the email and never thought of her again. Final update. Several months later, I was at a charity gala in Miami. The firm had purchased a table. During the event, I was introduced to one of the event's major sponsors, the CEO of a national hotel chain. He recognized my name. "Garrett," he said, shaking my hand. "I remember your situation. The security footage request from your investigator at our Philadelphia property was escalated to my office." He looked at me with a knowing expression. It was an unusual request, but the documentation was solid. He paused. "I'm glad to see you've landed on your feet. You handled a difficult situation with class." I thanked him. As I walked away, I reflected on the journey. I thought about Evelyn's favorite accusation, her go-to weapon. "You need to stop being so insecure." She had tried to make me believe that my intuition was a weakness, a flaw in my character. But the lesson I learned was the opposite. That feeling, that quiet voice that tells you something is wrong, isn't insecurity. It's clarity. Ignoring it is the real mistake. Trusting it is the ultimate form of self-respect. In the end, I wasn't insecure. I was right. And in that truth, I had finally found peace.